how did you get into entrepreneurship?
When it comes to my story, I want to talk about three things before I get into my story because, frankly speaking, there's no big story. I want to talk about what's life, what's the body, and what's the mind. When it comes to life, I say life is now. So you're either living or not. Because yesterday is gone, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. So that's life. When we talk about body, I look at body as 5 bodies. We are 5 bodies here. There's the physical body that you see. There's the mental body that we have in our heads. There's an energy body that's actually driving us, making us move around. I'll come to the 4th later on. The 5th is the astral body. That's basically consciousness all across. The 4th is a transition body that's actually taking you from your energy, physical, mental, to the astral part. So that's body. Let's talk about mind. Mind is 4 parts. We have a brain that captures everything that's happening through our senses, and that becomes memory. So the second part is memory. The third part is our identity, what we build from that memory, which is actually just data that we have gathered through our 5 senses. And the 4th part is actually consciousness. That's, you may call it local, you may call it universal. So that's mind. So now that I've confused you well, let's talk about my story. So when I say my and story, my is identity. So when you look at the mind, it's basically your brain and memory that adds up to be your identity. So my is the identity part of it. Story is the memory part of it. It's what you've gathered all across. So, and we have its brain, which is brilliant. It can make any story. It can put the data as you want, in any which way you want, and make up a story. So I need to make up a story for entrepreneurship.
I was going to say, are you going to make up your origin story?
And I can make up that story in any which way we want, but it's not going to be different from what Andrea told you. That's the story that what happened in my life and how I got into this. What I would talk about is a technology which incorporates all this mind, body, life, which I call as human technology. It's this thing that we see. It's actually the best technology that will ever be invented or created. There's never going to be anything better than this. So that's the technology that we need to know about, which is what really helped me or really was instrumental in entrepreneurship. So when we talk of entrepreneurship, in my mind, it's about freedom. And now freedom can be freedom from what we typically think about, freedom from my job, from my previous boss, from doing what he asked me to do. It could be freedom which is all external. But I think the real freedom that humanity as such is looking for is freedom from our minds, our mental body that I talked about. That's the biggest cage or the most complex cage that we are in. So when I was pretty much looking for entrepreneurship, it was more about that freedom. Actually, that's what drove me into or helped me into getting into entrepreneurship, is because I could free myself from that mental body. So it was a mental freedom that really helped to understand or to take on, because entrepreneurship is not easy. It's a lot of things happening together. It's a lot of engagement, as I call it, because engagement is life, because life is now. And if you're not engaged now, you cannot be engaged in the past or in the future. But typically, we are engaged in the future. We have ambitions, we have goals, which are all in the future, which you don't know are going to happen or not. The only thing you can do is now. So that engagement now is all about entrepreneurship, because if you're engaged in the now, you will do whatever it takes, which is what is expected from an entrepreneur.